This animated map shows the Strait of Hormuz bottleneck prior to Operation Epic Fury. Every single day, roughly 140 merchant ships flowed freely through this narrow waterway, carrying 20% of the world's total supply of oil and liquefied natural gas. But watch what happens to that traffic volume after the crisis begins. The flow plunges to a trickle. Today, fewer than 6 ships make that same crossing. The vessels that do get through are forced into specific regime-approved routes, acting as a floating toll system. Safe passage now costs an extortionate $2 million? By choking off a fifth of the global energy supply, Iran has effectively taken the worldwide economy hostage. That extreme leverage is putting immense pressure on the United States from its allies to break the blockade, whatever the cost. Sending the Navy directly into the strait to clear it sounds like the obvious solution. But the waterway is incredibly narrow and heavily defended by coastal missile batteries. Sailing a fleet into that choke point invites catastrophic naval losses, so the U.S. needs to look elsewhere. They have to find a target completely outside the danger zone, an asset so valuable to the regime that Iran will willingly trade the freedom of the strait just to get it back. Breaking a blockade of this scale requires asymmetric leverage. The U.S. needs a counter-hostage. This map points us right to that target, Kharg Island. It's a tiny strip of land, just 7.7 square miles, sitting a brief 20-mile jump off the Iranian mainland. And yet, an astonishing 90% of Iran's exported oil funnels directly into this single isolated location. As this chart demonstrates, the financial stakes are staggering. In 2024 alone, oil flowing out of Kharg Island generated $43 billion. That single revenue stream accounts for 57% of Iran's entire export income. To keep that oil moving, 20,000 workers maintain a massive network of terminals, pipelines, and dock tankers, acting as the beating heart of the regime's finances. If the United States seizes this one small island, they cut off more than half of Iran's export income, collapsing the country's economic lifeline overnight. To execute a mission of that magnitude, the Pentagon announced a major escalation, deploying over 2,000 elite paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division. These soldiers belong to the Immediate Response Force. They are engineered to handle sudden crises, capable of deploying fully combat-ready to a hostile airfield in just 18 hours. But there is a serious tactical vulnerability here. The 82nd is a light infantry division. If they land on Kharg Island, they are highly exposed to Iranian armored units and mobile missile launchers hiding along the coast. To protect those paratroopers, the U.S. military is systematically dismantling the threats. They've launched preemptive bunker-busting airstrikes to destroy missile sites along Iran's coastline. They're also sending heavy armor. 2 Marine Expeditionary Units were dispatched ahead of the 82nd to provide the ground support and firepower light infantry lacks. Finally, air defense systems are actively staging in nearby Kuwait, ready to immediately deploy and lock down the skies once American forces occupy Kharg. The Pentagon has orchestrated a layered, multi-domain strike force specifically to capture and hold Iran's most vital economic asset. While the military moves into position, a separate psychological battle is playing out. Tentative rumors of ceasefire talks have surfaced, reportedly centering around a 15-point U.S. plan. According to President Trump, these negotiations are only happening because Iran's leadership is desperate after suffering massive military losses during the opening strikes. But Iran's military publicly and bluntly denies that any talks are taking place. Their spokespeople claim the U.S. is entirely failing and merely negotiating with itself. These starkly different reports suggest a breakdown in the regime's internal communication following its recent leadership losses. While Iranian officials issue contradictory statements, the U.S. continues moving its military into position, forcing the fractured regime to determine which American threat is real, the diplomats or the paratroopers. The sheer scale of the incoming American firepower is undeniable, with the 82nd Airborne and 2 Marine Expeditionary Units bearing down on the Persian Gulf. The threat of boots on the ground is imminent. But an actual assault on Kharg Island may not even be necessary. The preparation alone might be enough to force Iran's hand. The U.S. is offering a very clear trade: ensure the safety of Kharg Island and the survival of the Iranian economy in exchange for reopening the Strait of Hormuz to global shipping. The American military has prepared for war, but they've also engineered an unwinnable geopolitical trap. Iran must now choose to either give up its hostage or watch its economy be occupied.